in the neuroscience or in this field. I'm still quite young, but what I've noticed over time, for me, it's probably exposure. And I would say exposure in terms of in our own field as neuroscientists. What I noticed while I was, being in school is that many of our neuroscience senior, or in this field, I'm still quite young. But what I've noticed over time, they didn't have, for me, it's probably exposure. Those that had, and I would say exposure in terms of from the others. In our own field as neuroscientists. What I noticed while I was, and that created that being in school between, is that many of our neuroscience or in this field, I'm still quite young. But what I've noticed over time, they didn't have, for me, it's probably exposure. Those that had, and I would say exposure in terms of in our own field as neuroscientists. What I noticed while I was, and that created that being in school, is that many of our neuroscience or in this field, I'm still quite young. But what I've noticed over time, for me, probably exposure. And I would say exposure in terms of in our own field as neuroscientists. What I noticed while I was, and that created that being in school, is that many of our neuroscience or in this field, I'm still quite young. But what I've listened over time, for me, probably exposure. And I would say exposure in terms of in our own field as neuroscientists. What I noticed while I was, and that created that being in school, is that many of our neuroscience or in this field, I'm still quite young. But what I've listened over time, for me, probably exposure. And I would say exposure in terms of in our own field as neuroscientists. What I noticed while I was, and that created that being in school, is that many of our neuroscience or in this field, I'm still quite young. But what I've listened over time, for me, probably exposure. And I would say exposure in terms of in our own field as neuroscientists.
Let's appreciate them. Let me also remind us at this moment that this gathering is like a refinery, and all of us are in the making, so to say. So whatever kind of mentor you are going to be, you are getting to know the different kind of mentors we have. All right. Permit me to welcome to the podium. We have invited them. Maybe they went for one or two assignments. Our great mentors as well in the house. Professor Onosonwo, let's put our hands together for him as he comes to the podium. I've invited you earlier. And also the president himself, NSN, Professor Owoyele Victor. Let's welcome him to the podium as well. You have been invited earlier to, sir. Let's keep appreciating them as they come. Thank you very much for being in our midst tonight. All right. Some of them have touched what the next question is going to be. All the same, I'm still going to ask them to speak on that. It has been established that there are gaps, and one cogent thing that I've been able to pinpoint that brings about the gap is maybe pride. I think I was able to hold on to that word. That pride may be a very big gap that makes mentorship to be a difficult exercise in some quarters. And it has been mentioned that we are already bridging those gaps. So I want to hear how those gaps are being bridged. How do we cover those gaps in mentorship? Africa as a case study. Let me start with Prof. Everyone is pointing at you, the president. So let me start from him. Professor Owoyele, it has been established that there are gaps when it comes to mentorship in science in general. How do we bridge such a gap, taking Africa as a case study?
Oh, thank you. So I want to welcome Professor Manga. Thank you for honoring our invitation. And then the treasurer and financial secretary, the one that hosts our money, Dr. Retoke and Dr. Ejomone, and our great participant. I think usually when we come for NSN, it's where you have this big number of youth students. And we're always happy that the future is bright because you have people that will replace those old ones. So if we have not done anything well, you have the opportunity to correct what we have not done well. Though I don't class myself as being part of the very old generation. I think I'm a blend of the old and the new, kind of. So, gap. You see, there is no way you can do away with culture. When I went to do my master's, so whoever know where I did my master's, we know what I'm saying about, talking about. I was the first set of physiology students from my university. And I came and one big old professor said, "Oh boy, you don't know anything. You don't know anything." I said, "Yes, sir." Instead of getting annoyed, I said, "Yes, sir." He said, and so I have finished my master's with the best graduating student in my university for the BSc physiology. And somebody said, "You don't know anything." He said, "If you want to know something, better go and stay with the medical students and learn." I said, "Thank you, sir." I bowed down my head and said, "Thank you, sir." Because it is not my argument or whatever is going to tell me that is going to define me. But when I put down what I have, by the time I was graduating, this is my friend. My story is still there in that university. So I prove him otherwise. So you have these old people, but again, what I want to emphasize is that we talk about Omoluabi, how you are born, your home training. Unfortunately, you cannot get the way it is. There was some series of email communication between Professor Manga and Dr. Olarewaju. And in one email, he said, call me Manga, don't call me Prof. I'm not this title freak kind of. No, you can't do that in Nigeria. It is just culture. So you just have to understand the dynamism around. If I like, I did my postdoc at Massachusetts General Hospital and Harvard Medical School. And because of my culture, I call my prof. But, and the lady who is my peer, I would say, Victor, I would say, Prof. Victor, I would say, Prof. It is what I carry there. Surprisingly, when I went to do my postdoc, the night I was to travel out of this country in Lagos, if I was just like 30 minutes before my departure, they announced my professorial appointment as a professor in Nigeria. I went to US to do postdoc under an associate professor. And I asked somebody, I said, I am a professor. And I said, bury that professor for the period you are in the US. And I did bury the professor. She came down with me for SONA 2019. And I took her to Ilorin and the husband. It was when she entered Ilorin that everybody was saying, Prof, Victor, are you Prof? Sometimes you just have to be wise to look at what you are looking at. There are some people you cannot change, but those who cannot change, there are people that have gained this experience and they will change. Because just like Dr. John Monley was saying, when we are designing experiments, myself and my student will sit down. One of my master students is here. And sometimes we have layers. The master student had to work under a PhD student, and only I'm at the supervisory level. And we have some agreement. Why are you doing this? Why are you not doing that? So when it comes to research, usually we drive. My own problem is that I will drive you. So if you are lazy, you can't stay under my spot. I actually have a BSc student here too, so they can see. So I think we should just understand the culture. And at the higher level, when you are going for your master's, you have opportunity of choosing your mentors, your supervisors. Please investigate very well, study very. Don't just enter any uncharted territory without having a prior information. We might be shining on our eyes, but our character may not be the same. And sometimes you can't change anybody, no matter how you preach it. It's just their character. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much for this privilege. And let me just thank Professor Bang also for honoring our invitation. If you look at where Professor Manga is coming from and where we are here, I hope every one of us can really say what the difference may be. And that's a serious gap. My good friend, Professor Oyeri, just talked about Professor Manga asking, don't call me, Professor, just call me my name, call me my first name. You can't do that in Nigeria. Even ordinary Mr. as a lecturer, you can't just call him or call her a lady. Is her first name. It will amount to being you very rude to your lecturer. But really, you have one name. And when you are named, you are not given Mr. or brother or professor. The gap we are talking about is a serious issue which we must address. I was privileged to be supervised by the same supervisor of Professor Oyele in the University of Ibadan. Let me mention the name so that you know where I'm coming from. Because I've experienced a lot of, how would I put it? Is there attack? Let me say attack and, people throwing missiles at me. You are coming from Nigeria, especially the University of Ibadan. Your problem is too much. You won't graduate student on time. You are this. And there was a time I was being denied a position because I came from University of Ibadan. It was a serious matter. But what happened? In the University of Ibadan, let me tell you the truth, just like you said, even if you are anything beyond first class, you don't know anything in front of your lecturers. Don't feel or don't believe that you know anything. Just like you say, you don't know anything. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And just go back. And you need humility. It's part of your PhD. Unfortunately. But humility is so strong that even if you don't dobale, that you always say, you may not get your degree. Whereas Manga may not understand what I'm saying. If you don't prostrate for your supervisor, you may not get your PhD. But I think things are changing now. This generation is trying to bridge that gap. I was fortunate to have the same supervisor, like I said. My own supervisor, Professor Elegbe of blessed memory, was a bit different from them. He was able to mix the two. In fact, he was the one that introduced me to program outside this country. He encouraged me. Why some people are saying, what are you doing? You are not serious. You don't know anything. He gave me a link. Then it was Third World Academy of Science, this fellowship outside. It was in China. I applied. It still was not working, not knowing that they've stopped that program. So he now said, go and meet so person. I went to him. He was guiding me. See, mentorship is all about experience and leadership. If you don't have that experience, you can't give it. He's been there before, and he knew that persistency in doing things will get you what you want. I applied again. He said, go and meet so person. I went to him. That one gave me another link. I started. It was in India. The first one I applied. Second time, I went to Paris. I'm tired of this thing. The thing is not working. Let me just finish. He said, no. You continue. And the third time, it was then we will go to Agbo, problem of this gap of searching internet and all that. You have to go and book 1 hour. I don't know whether some of us experience that. Overnight, at times you book so that you can use internet. Because you can't use internet. Now you can pick your phone and just talk to Professor Manga and say, Professor Manga, tomorrow I want to. But then, it's like booking time. And I saw this May. They said, congratulations, you've just been awarded 6 months for fellowship in India. I jumped. They looked at me and said, what is your problem? See, experience of my supervisor has brought me that. I said, no, you don't stop. Continue. And so unfortunately, you couldn't have enough time to interact together before he went to be with the Lord. There are a lot of gaps. Some people discourage you. Some people say all sorts of things. 5 of my postgraduate students are here. We came together. At times, if we are talking, you may not know who the supervisor is. They are here. When we do things, we eat together. You won't know whether If I have to dress like a small boy, somebody put in time, you may think, oh, maybe Ishmael is the supervisor of that. You must, mentorship is all about friendship with your mentees. They must be free to talk. If your mentee cannot talk to you, cannot come to you and sit down with you, then you are not a mentor, you are a terrorist. When they see you from afar, they will take another route. That's a serious gap. Just like Professor Oyele said, in our lab, once you have a plan, I may give an idea. I can say, okay, Lawa, this is what we want to do. This day, I will just give them clue. Okay, go and package everything. We come together, let's review. Oh yeah, go, you present. They will present. Everybody will contribute. All of them will talk. Then at the end, I will wrap up. Then we have a complete and a good proposal. Not just one man's idea. But in those days, whatever your supervisor says, you do. If you do anything otherwise, then you have graduated already. Because you won't get anything out of it. I've seen a student that was there 4 years doing MPhil PhD, and she could not even graduate with MPhil. In fact, the professor said, I'm tired of supervising, please go. So, somebody else now took her up to finish with MPhil. So the gap is always there, but now we thank God for the new generation, where Dr. Professor Ejomone they will soon announce his chair. And Oritoke is my sister, although at times I try to bully her because I know them say, we'll talk about that later. These are the young people that we can approach as well. Yes, if you see, there is a gap we need to come. Pride must be taken away. Some of us will feel we are in my lab, I'm this, I'm that. You don't know anything, just like what he said. You need to learn from other people. Whatever you don't know, you don't know. When I went to India, I was already a lecturer. I have my PhD. Master student taught me a lot of things. I don't know. I didn't know those things that time. And if I will put on pride as my clothes, then I will go to that lab and return the same. I have to come down. A professor being taught by master students. One of my professors, I've not gone for, once you're a professor, you are not expected to go for another training. But that is another pride. If you don't know as a professor, you don't know. You need to learn. Because the kind of program we do here in Nigeria is like, you don't have these practicals, maybe theory or practicals. And when they ask you, come and demonstrate, nothing. Professor Jomone can tell you. All right. So, and a lot of things have been, and I want to thank Professor Jomone for his package. You know, some of us are here based on the support from his lab. The new generation is bridging that gap. I don't want to talk too much. I don't know whether there will be more questions, but let me just reserve the rest for. Thank you.
That in order for us to have a better world, in order for us to have a conducive environment when it comes to the leadership, you are part of the environment that we are going to be a good result with a lack of simplicity. The problem of pride, taking African setting and title is another dimension. And if we are going to get change, then it will gain from you and from me. So I look forward to having a better work after this conference. When you are finished, when you get to the top of the ladder and you have a better organization, it becomes unhelpful. All of us are going to follow change in Nigeria and in Africa. And I can see that it's possible. So once again, thank you very much for this wonderful response. So some people are also calling the next question along the very for all, right? I want to throw this question to all of them to answer it. So let's watch and hear what individuals want to say about this. Approachability matters when it comes to mentorship. This approachable. How approachable are you? What will this then individual so that as they are seminars of this will you can see mentors again. If they are far away from them for want to access their doors or closing the so how approachable are you? That is that one. Make an impression. If I talk to them once, first time I'm very young, I talk to you very little about I try to get and I can't find people very easy or I can't find something. I have to put the person on maybe you just organize maybe you don't we talk again the next time. I'm not saying that how I have a grandfather and these students and these something. Okay. So maybe you are really clearly about the but maybe the meet for Professor need to get into the problem in which you forget that it's very much a fun of the meeting. What kind of thing they are just about the glass, those that are you want to look at the head. I mean, this is something that there will be access to the glass. And really direct to what we together. And the lot of probably access to you want me to publish. And I think equivalent of your senior economics. The work to publish the work and people don't do access to them. So we try to work on that. I will not remember look at the work. And I knew I was very because I can't find any of the I didn't continue to things and I didn't pass. And I did that. I mean, how do we do to say I want to contribute something and then I send something. And I did one or two. You don't have to gates. I don't have to talk to a it's easy to yes, we are approachable, but also understand that most times that I say that in case I look at the problem but sometimes the issue comes from the other end. How to respond the environment, how to respond the team to a something. Sometimes I say if I see something, when you're coming back, don't go back, you don't teach me back. I don't want anything to teach back. Yeah, I don't want to the next few months that I'm going to something so I think that okay. I don't even want to change. I think I have a lot of students to answer them. What I'm very good. If you can get when you have this thing, I have to manage you won't have one. But at the same time, I need to extend it because I have seen our system. After I
is because I think this is the mindset. There are things that why are we saying always love? I can give you what I would like to do. And I'm ready to see how much of the very good I don't want to achieve. Okay.
Okay. And so because I also want you to achieve as much as myself or even better, I find myself putting you in that hot spot. And like Dr. Germany has said, it is not my duty to chase after a student. It is your duty to look for me and run after me and be on my neck, because I, as a person, he can testify to that. I'm always in his DM or in his mail, screaming or looking for him. Same thing with several of my mentors. When Professor about something, I remember the same experience. I couldn't do my PhD outside of Nigeria. I did it in Nigeria, in University of Ibadan, the same. But I told myself that I wasn't going to be encouraged for me, then that was my own view. It could be, but I said I wasn't going to be the champion, but I wanted to do the PhD in Nigeria. I wanted part of it to be outside of the country. So I saw this grant, and I'm like, this travel grant for a short period. I'm like, I want to apply for this. And I remember talking to my supervisor then, and I said, okay, I saw this stuff, I want to apply. And I remember what I heard was, this is not to say my supervisor is a bad person. I'm only saying that what the first response he gave me was, nobody has ever gotten this thing. Madam, you cannot get it. Don't try. But then I saw that as an opportunity to convince him that I could do it. And I remember that Professor Lokpate, Professor Amadi had not met Professor Ijomon then. Maybe he would have been the middle person. But the two of them, as well as two other people who are not Nigerians, I worked with them on that grant, on that application of mine for 1 year before I submitted it. And when I finally submitted it, I got the grant. And sorry. Okay. So, and it became a shock. No one believed it. But I will tell you this, ever since that, my supervisor cannot do anything, even till now, without calling on me. He wants to write a grant. He will say, Madam, what do you think? Read through this. He wants to go for a presentation. Madam, look through these slides. That is, I had convinced him that I'm worth it and I know this thing and I can achieve. And now he can believe in me. We got grants together for organizing schools and everything. And I was on every committee. Maybe he was trying to test me, I cannot say. But for me, I took on that challenge and I tried to show him that I could achieve. And I think that has been working and that's been working well. So I feel like most students sometimes feel like when we talk about a grant, they want you to write for them. I know sometimes I want to do it to him. Yes, but at this level, not when I used to say that I become lazy. When I was still a student, a PhD student, I was never like that. But after PhD, I got a little relaxed. And I used to be like, now we are party. I better help me now. But that is understandable. But when I was still a student, I never would drop my work or my responsibility to somebody else. I would even do above. So I think it's that we should remember that in our own position as mentees, is that we are the ones on the end to look and run after those senior ones. They would never be the ones to look after you or to run after you rather. They are still running after some people for their own achievement. And the truth is you would still benefit from those things that they are doing for themselves. You are still going to benefit if you're still under their mentorship, you will still benefit from it. So I think with that, we can easily bridge that gap.
So I guess we're talking about approachability. I've always wanted to be a really grumpy old man and be left alone, but it just doesn't seem to be part of my makeup, unfortunately. I think when the mentorship relationship that I've been mostly involved in has been with students that are doing masters and PhDs in my lab, and I've always found that enjoying, sharing the joy of what we're finding with each other is the big thing, and that's what really bridges, builds, and has the relation, makes the relationship quite strong. I think the vast majority of students I've supervised are now my friends, and that's a great thing, I think. But I think that the central thing to the whole mentor and mentee relationship is for everyone to let go of all their most deeply held beliefs and say these beliefs don't come into play when we're working. When we're working on things, we don't enforce a particular worldview on them. We look at what we've got and we take it from there. And I think that's the best way to do it, because then everyone's working from the same level and we all become very approachable in that sense.
Yeah, thank you. Being approachable, I would say I'm not too difficult to get. In fact, at times I run after my students. So interesting. Some students at times, or your mentee, call them, may be discouraged, especially with what is happening now. Everybody wants to get out of this place as quick as possible. Just like what Dr. Toke did, left his supervisor behind and ran away. A lot of them too, they want to. I talked to one of my students. I said, after this, your BSc. I said, Oga, I'm going. Everybody wants to japa. That's the language. Even those who are doing, I encourage my master's students. There are a lot of opportunities out there. If you have done masters in the University of Ibadan, you can be rest assured you are hot cake anywhere based on the kind of training. I think people can testify to that. Whereas Oyeli from Ilorin can testify to that. One of my, I think, 2 weeks ago, one of my current PhD students got another opening in the US. Before getting it, I was encouraging, and eventually he got it. I can't hold him down. There are things that he can do with his life out there, with facilities available, which we don't have here. Why do I need to hold students down? Students have access to me anytime, any day. I talk to my students 1 a.m. Some people say, that's word. No, to me, there's not I can. If somebody's in Canada, I'm calling at 1 a.m. That's like 6 p.m. in Canada, in my students. So I say, oh, that time is all time. You don't. There are some here that once I think of something about his or work, if I check online, he or she is online, I can just call, send a message. Can we talk? We talk. So that when you think about some things at times, if you don't discuss it at that present moment, you may not be able to talk exactly like that again. As the thing is coming, you discuss it and you put it down so that even later when you see, you can discuss it better. We normally have meetings on Friday. At times we have to get snacks and drinks to sit down and discuss. Being approachable means you must be friendly, and your mentee must be able to talk to you. They must not see you as somebody that they can't relate with. And like I said, mentor-mentee relationships is friendship, but there must be a demarcation. Not friendship of going out together, girlfriend, this or side chicks. No, for ladies, we have to define that, because now somebody say professor, no, so we must be friendly. That kind of friendship is not what I'm talking about. And you must be able to put them through, lead them through. If your students or your mentee has a question to ask you when you are busy, if you can attend to it, why not? But at the same time, there must be a line. Sometimes some mentee wants to abuse the opportunity given them. They want to go beyond their boundary. You must put them to order. I'm so friendly, but at the same time, they know once I change my eyes in the lab, they must sit up. But there are some things you must observe. There are simple etiquettes in the lab. Simple etiquettes. So time for meeting, you are there. These are the things we want to do, you must do. You don't procrastinate. Experiments in the lab, you have to attend to your, laboratory animals around 8 a.m. You are coming at 10 a.m. to do what? The following day, you are coming at 12 noon to do what? And we always fight. So we must be able to draw lines where necessary. But at the same time, we must be open to them so that we can respond to their needs as time warrants. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to add little points or to reemphasize what they have said, I think approachability is not just limited to the supervisor. It's also a function of the students. We all have our different traits. And so if you want to work as a team, I tell my student, I said, when a recommendation letter comes, somebody is asking about you, we want to be able to say that it's a team player. And these are things that we watch when we assign you to group. And then you sometimes have had issues where people are doing joint projects and somebody will say you will not pay. I don't generally get money from students. Somebody will get and somebody will say you will not pay the lab fee that they are supposed to use for the same experiment. I mean, we might drag it, but at the end of the day, one day, somebody will ask me to write about you. But you have demonstrated what you are, and I will not lie. You want me to be a liar? You want to be a liar? No, I don't want to be a liar. I will tell you, I will say the truth. So I tell people, I said, you see, we're growing up, I drove my supervisors. It's unfortunate, but before you say, I anticipate the next question. So before you say, bring this, I already have it to give you. In fact, I will even give you before you ask. But when I now have students that I have to be driving, that is me. And I wish everybody can be like that. So for me, it depends on my students. They will let you know that it is tough to be with me, right? But when they finish, they know that they are happy. As I said, grace, there are two graces here. Can grace number 1 and number 4 stand up? Where is grace? This is not grace number 4. This is grace number 4. So grace is serving. She was my former student. Grace, this usually will be number 5, is a current 400 level student. Dr. Idaya, I supervise the stand up. I supervise the masters. Peace just defended peace. Just defended masters. Dr. Bayo Lugbami is a lecturer. Can you stand up, please? They passed through my lab. And I believe I'm happy with what they are doing. Because when we are, sit down, please, sit down. When we are done, during the training, it can be very tough. But the essence of training is, are you being wicked or you want the best thing out of your students? Jimmy is not here. Jimmy said, just as I have said, sometimes 2 a.m. in the night. I tell students, I said, lecturers, I hope we are not killing ourselves. I just realized that we don't sleep. Honestly, I was chatting with Dr. Bayo Lugbami about 4 days ago. We were doing something together around 2 a.m. My wife was leaving and said, And in fact, at one point, she has to call me in that night, 2 a.m. See, she's looking at me. Yesterday, we were chatting 1 a.m. Stand up, Dr. Sulaiman, associate professor. But 1 a.m. in the night. But the students that we are training, they are dozing. Jimmy said, when he sees my text message or chat around 1:30 to say, I say, instantly the sleep will disappear. He will say, Oga is not asleep, and I'm sleeping. And he will start working. So I think even though we want to be approachable, we must not forget about work ethic. I used to say that the supervisor that supervised my BSc and PhD work taught me perfect work ethic. It was British trained. and he taught me perfect work ethic. But the person, Professor Legbe, that supervised my masters was so lenient, was so, not that lenient, but was so friendly. And in fact, from there, I veered into neuroscience, and I'm ever grateful that I met Professor Elegbe. He was different from the others. And added was my co-supervisor, Professor Laleye. They are so pleasant people to work with. And it changed me. I might be tough, do this, but deep within me, I want the best out of my students. Thank you.
Wow, this is great. If you are just working in place, then people take time to have feedback, to ask them questions that maybe a burden of parts. I have one to do, if you think that writing it on paper is what you prefer, it's just what I do. And then here, and if you think that you don't want to speak about it, you're going to be allowed to do that in a short while. If you feel that, let me look at Dr. Egon saying in terms of keeping a what is the worst experience you have ever had? All that still happen in mentorship. I get as a mentor. Is there any one experience in scenario? Maybe you have had a partner with a particular mentor or the mentee, and the kind of drama that is involved against, and you think you want to do it. Thank you.
Maybe I don't want to share without yes, we have as me as a mentee. Not private, but what hard work. Maybe as a mentor, and then maybe it was on the graduate. I guess that way. I'm not going to beat around. That way I go about that thing that if I talk to you once, I talk to you twice, I talk to you, then my mind switches off. I don't know if if I carry you from every student I meet, I put you first on the average key. So you could either teach to become excellent, as in good, nice, or you could just go the other way. And it's gradually. So I think I had a student 2 years ago. Funny thing that she was a BSc student. She was on 2-1 when we first had that met. But somehow she was always not. I can't imagine giving somebody. This one I did the giving. Somebody had a D in seminar. You know the seminar we always do in final year where everybody has you have an A. If you have B self, you will cry. You will think that what did I do? Everybody has A in seminar. That regular. The person had a D and I was very glad about it. The only reason the person did not fail is because I told myself he was not going to fail seminar. Oh, after several submit 10 paper. And I can't, one thing I don't do, I can't pursue students. I don't have the time. And it's not because I can't really, but I'm still pushing. I'm young. Sorry, I'm young. All of you keep calling me Professor Germany. That's what's confusing everybody. The people I'm pursuing, I'm trying to pursue them. And you now want me to not deviate from them and be pursuing you too. That should be pursued. Okay, I'll quote the Bible. Paul say, follow me as I what? As I follow Christ. So that's how it works. So 10 people, she could not. And then sometimes when I give students deadline, I may be nice and move the. I'm sure that was a terrible student I've had. And anytime she comes to the school, I still tell her. Because I was angry now that somebody who was on 2 and became 2-2. For what? You couldn't, and where would I get this? You could not submit a 10 paper after how many months, everybody. The deal was because she presented well and she's intelligent. So sometimes intelligence is not enough. You could be the best. I have seen intelligent students. And for me, maybe because undergraduate, I was too young and I was intimidated that I didn't graduate with first class. So first class, not to do my eye anything. Maybe if I had. So intelligence is not all. Sometimes you need to be street smart, academic smart. Do the things you are supposed to do when you're supposed to do them. One way or the other, as far as you can read and understand, intelligence or ability to gather information will come. But like Prof said, your work ethics, doing the things, I always scream about work ethics. Abba. Anyways, I'll stop there.
All right. That brings me, or reminds me, rather, about the approachability we just talked about a few minutes ago. That's if you're able to read in between the line, their responses, it's not that they are not approachable. You know, some of them started their contributions by saying, am I actually approachable? At the end of the day, if you're able to read in between the line, you will know that all of them are approachable. But one thing they will never promote is mediocrity. Am I correct? All right. So they are not mediocres themselves. Therefore, they will never uphold mediocrity. So as a supposed mentee, there is something you also need to bring to the table. There is the level of seriousness we also need to contribute. And that is what has reflected in the candidates that Dr. Mamos just talked about now. So as you are planning to get yourself connected, be thinking on what is the character, what is the approach I need to confront these people with? How do I sustain our relationship in case I am able to establish one with them? So, not that they are not approachable. All of them are friendly. All of them love our success. They want us to progress in this career, and their doors are open to us. But you must not come and establish a relationship that you now turn to be like a Nollywood movie. Is that okay? So God helps us as we grab these opportunities. All right. So like I said, we also need to pour out some of our hearts to them. So at this juncture, I want to welcome questions from all of us that are seated here. And if you would like to speak up, I will want you to just indicate by raising your hands. Then maybe I will give you numbers so that we can hear your questions and they will attend to it as it is expected. Anybody that wants, all right, so I'm giving number 1. Number 2, 3. Any other? 4, 5. All right, so I think we can go by these numbers that we have. I have one already, so I'm going to read it out and I will permit number 1 to answer his questions. Okay, so I'm going to read out these questions from one of our students. The question says, why is it that a student is forced to carry out research at undergraduate level, specifically within the supervisor's fields of specialty? The students might be interested in researching on certain type of animal model, which might be different from that of the supervisor. Or the focus of interest might differ. Brain areas of interest might differ. In this kind of arrangement, what should the students do? I will just throw it open. Who wants to help us address that? Someone is pointing at Professor Nasawo.
The issue of interest, you see, once a student is apportioned to me, and such student comes to me, my office, the first thing I always ask is, what are you interested in? Even BSc. Normally BSc students don't know anything. That's the truth. Except they have been visiting one lab or the other before. Somebody who is in 300, just coming to 400 level, that has ever seen anything like research before, and they may not have the idea. But it's expected that you give them something to do. But I will ask. At times, I will carry we have like a logbook of all the publications in the lab. I will give it to them. Go and go through. Look at what we have been doing in the lab. Then come with your own idea. Some of them will come back. Some will still say, I don't know what to do. Whatever you want to, they contact people. They say, whatever they are doing, they should do this and all that. So if students have something in mind, we look at it together. If it is practicable, why not? But most of the time, if you are doing anything that is moving away from our own way of research, we may not be able to accommodate that, and there must be a focus in every lab. So when students have an idea, based on what we have been doing, we'll sit down together, like I said, all of us will contribute. You might have done something like, maybe at the end of the whole thing, the lab is contributing about 80% to that work, and we make it so robust. And in the lab, BSc student is responsible to the MSc to PhD. So that is, if they are doing, they know in my lab, BSc cannot come to me for anything. Once we have designed, go and meet MSc. MSc will put you through. If there is issue, PhD will come. Then finally I will come. Everybody will go through the same work. By the time we are even publishing that work, nobody in the lab will say he doesn't know about it. I think in my own case, I don't think I will force a student to do anything if he or she does not want to do it. Thank you.
I think, let me just, I think because we are specialists, like in my university, if you come to me, you will do neuro. I mean, why should I supervise what I don't have expertise in? And at the undergraduate level, you are still malleable, you are still able to cope with anything. And you should see it as a special grace. Like for me, I did cardiovascular research for my BSc. It was at the master that I started working on pain and inflammation neuroscience. So when I went to go for my master's, I insisted that, like at University of Ilorin, if you finish BSc, you have, and you are coming for master's, you have a choice to choose your supervisor indirectly by choosing the area you want to work on, and we respect that. At the PhD level, you are the one that will say, this is the person I want to supervise me. But at the undergraduate level, you are still learning. You can still learn. And for our students, like the graces we are seeing, you can go to teaching hospitals, you can go to different places to gain other experience and add it to whatever you have. So I think if you are given to allocated to some supervisors, you should just try to learn that, as even if that is not the area you want to specialize in. You cannot specialize at undergraduate. You cannot become a specialist at undergraduate. Even masters, you can hardly be called a specialist. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to believe that the question is well attended to. If I may just chip in this, I had a supervisee who also said she wanted to work with Shaq. When I asked her to go and, when I asked her to go and bring a proposal, and she told me that she wanted to work with Shaq, I said, well, what a beautiful proposal. But going by the visibility, you needed to come in there as a mentor, isn't it? It's a good dream to start big, but we can't get Shaq in this place. I needed to just tailor the work to what is available. And when she grows up, if actually she has that dream, she can go and get Shaq later and work with Shaq. So mentorship is all about guiding you and helping you to achieve your goal by starting from a scratch, and you continue to graduate. It can be a starting point for you. Questions are rolling in. I don't know, those that indicated number 1 and number 2. Okay, let me just take your own questions for now. So number 1. Please, can you just step forward so that you make use of the microphone?
Thank you very much, sirs. My name is Ridwan from University of Ibadan. My first question is actually, as a mentor, how do you manage a situation where your mentee has consistently bad ideas or bad decisions, and you really don't want to shape his research, but still the person has consistently bad ideas? Is there a point where you say, okay, no, I can't take this anymore, please go and look for a new supervisor? Or do you now step in as a mentor and actually try to mold the person? Another question is, what are specific traits you see? Because most times when we listen to mentorship lectures, we as younger students, they'll tell us things to look for in mentors, or things to look for in people that want to be our mentors. Are there specific traits that you look into from students before you actually accept them to be your mentees? And what are those specific traits? And then as a mentor, I'm sorry that the questions are much. So as a mentor, how do you actually manage being wrong? Being wrong.
How do you manage it? I think
being wrong, yes.
Dr. Mamos was following you as you were asking your question, and I want him to.
Doesn't mean okay. I'll be being wrong. I mean, I think sometimes probably comes with the territory. I think I learned recently that somebody is teaching me patience, and my daughter. So that's where I started learning patience. Before that, my patience level was very low. Being wrong comes with the territory. It's how would you put it? Not like I want to use the word that okay, since I'm not very old, I always try to say I see them as younger ones. But if you get wrong, it's normal. Colleagues wrong you. Being wrong is normal. Don't worry. Your mentor, as far as you're wrong, is not the kind of wrong that is unpardonable, or I don't know how to put it, because there are some wrong that maybe will tender into disrespect. If you disrespect your mentor, sure, let me put it this way. If you disrespect, I want to say in the Yoruba sense, but I'm not talking about like you are not greeting or those things. You know now, if you disrespect someone, if they let everybody beg. He may agree. That agrees just so that it can go. That's that agree. So try as much as possible not to get to that point where you do something that is really, really, really disrespectful. We all know what disrespectful is. What was the next question? If you always have bad ideas, right? Something like that. How about now? That's what I say. Sometimes BSc students, sometimes seriously, when BSc student comes, I don't know what they have been reading or what they've been watching. Don't worry. If you confidently, I think what a mentor is supposed to do is he's supposed to teach you. There's something about even learning how to design research, how to make hypotheses. Sometimes we don't know. It's a skill by being with someone who knows how to design. You can even have great ideas, but the way you would say the idea, it just feels almost impossible. So I think it's in the plate, and you are the one that wants to learn. And please understand, let's put it this way, like Prof said, the person said you don't know anything, even if I'm not trying to say you don't, but you should understand you are trying to learn, right? So I don't see how you would come thinking you already know all. If you know all, you should not be the one there. You get what I'm trying to say. So please understand you're the one trying to learn. What was the other one? Third question. My own is very straightforward. I don't want to say it so that you don't have plenty of them in my lab soon. But I get moved by work ethics, as in, I don't know how. When I tell people that my sleeping time average, if by 12 o'clock my eyes is closed, it feels abnormal. I'm not saying you should not rest, please. I just know that it's not, my sleeping time may differ, yours may differ, and all the rest. But when there's something to do, get it done. That's what at least that's what moves me. Most people who have tended to stay in my lab, or we tend to relate very easily. Most of my mentors is they get the things done, they get the job done. Because growing up at my own, when I was under somebody, I was able to get the job done. I think most of us slept in the lab several times. So nowadays, students, you stay in the lab by ordinary 6, 7 o'clock. You're already feeling, and you're in the midst, okay, it's not like you do it every day. You're in the midst of project, and 6, 7 o'clock, your face is already doing mango. Understand? I didn't face one kind. Most of us slept in the lab consistently, as in because work ethic gets me, and a little bit of how would I put it? Humility, maybe because I feel like don't carry yourself too. I'm not carrying myself. The lab, nobody carries himself. So
Thank you very much, sir. The next question we go to Dr. Toke, so I want her to listen very well as I invite number 2 to ask our questions.
Thank you very much. Mine will be more of contribution because as an associate professor, I've also interacted with some students at one point or the other. The first addition has to do with the person that said, why will a BSc work in line with the supervisor? Your supervisor was an associate professor, associate lecturer when he or she joined the system. He's probably still running his PhD program. And of course, in the course of running his PhD program, he's supposed to be supervising you. For him to be focused, to benefit you as a student and benefit himself at the same time, you have to do some parts of whatever work he's doing so that he will achieve his purpose and you too will graduate. Otherwise, if you were to follow only his own PhD, you will be neglected. So if your supervisor is still running his PhD, you are most likely to do or work in line with whatever he or she is doing. So that is one. The second one has to do with your relationship with your supervisor or your mentor. Part of my PhD was done in the United States. I applied for Fulbright scholarship back then. And of course, people will always say, it's not possible to get it. But the point is, start. I started filling the form for Fulbright scholarship. The form were so numerous, over 40, 50 pages. It got to a point I just stopped. But at the other end, they were monitoring people that were applying. So, and the deadline of submission was approaching. So they realized this person is stagnant, not doing anything. So they had to contact me that, what is going on? Are you not going to submit? That was the time I realized, oh, somebody is even monitoring what I was doing. And that was the only reason I followed that form through. So in fact, for 3 consecutive days, because the deadline was so close, I did not sleep. I ensured I finished it and got it submitted. And before you know it, we were invited to Abuja for interview. Before you know it, if they are convinced that what you wanted to go and do outside the country is something you cannot do within Nigeria, or probably you don't have facility for, you are most likely to get those grants. So you need to ensure what you are going out to do is actually innovative. It's not something that is can readily be done in the country. So is to encourage us that we should keep applying. There are so many grants out there now. Continue to apply until you get it. Then closing the gap, my contribution to that has to do with the new set of mentors are actually closing the gap, like all our lecturers have said up there. One of the way I closed the gap with my own master's, PhD, and MSc student was beside the laboratory, we have WhatsApp group, WhatsApp. We have for BSc, we have for masters, we have for PhD. And in that group, that is where we say most of the things that we needed to say. So that the second day we simply meet in the lab and continue from our last discussion. So talking on WhatsApp, make them free to talk, to say what, to ask questions, and we are able to supply the answers. Most of the time when they ask questions, this question that you have just asked is on the internet. Why do you have a phone? Get 2 journals that are related to your questions. Submit first thing tomorrow morning. So that one allow them to manage the social media better, because they don't even know that most of the information they needed is actually there on the internet. So most of the work that we had to do in the lab, I asked them to get a journal, a literature, or information related to it. So we discuss on the group, then we meet in the lab to continue. So that has really closed the gap between me and my mentee. Thank you.
Let's appreciate her the more, please. I'm still giving the slot to Dr. Toke. So let me welcome the next person. Okay, number 3. Thank you very much.
Okay, good evening. I think I have more of a concern than a question. So as a recent anatomy graduate, I have tried to apply for jobs and here and there, but I'm turned down a lot, especially in Nigeria. So I'm curious, I'm concerned. Has neuroscience opened? Sorry, my question deviates from the whole mentorship talk. I apologize. Has neuroscience helped in that aspect of opening doors for anatomy students? Like, because when I have had conversations with doctors, when they come to me, when I'm talking to them, they're like, oh, you sound very intelligent. What did you study? Are you a medical student? I'm like, oh, no, I study anatomy. And they're like, oh, if it's not medicine, it's not medicine. That is very discouraging. So I want to, I don't know if it's a form of satisfaction I want to get, I'm not sure, but I want to know if neuroscience would close that gap or help. And then the other question that relates to mentorship, there are certain mentees that are slow learners. You have to push, you have to drag, you have to pull. It's not intentional. There are certain, I think the disorder is called dyslexia. I don't know, they don't learn quickly. When you say something now, you have to say it 10 times. What do you, I'm not sure if that's the term, but what do you do with mentees like that? Because it can be frustrating. It can be very frustrating. So what do you do to the mentee and the mentor? Because I used to have that problem. I learned it's difficult. So I've had lecturers, or no, let me say teachers, give up on me and say, that kind of thing. So in at that level where you are doing your PhD or master's, how do you communicate to students like that? How do you help them? Thank you. I should hold it. Sure. Okay. I'm, like I said earlier, I'm still a very junior neuroscientist. So I think the professors, maybe they would do more, maybe when it comes to policies to help bridge the gap. But if I were in your shoes, so I'm going to use that to answer you. I can't really, I do feel like the question actually is shouldn't be the mentor's issue. I think the question should be more about the student. That's how I feel. So that's how I'm going to answer it in terms of, if I were you, what would I do? So if I were you, first is to really be able to establish exactly what I want to do. When it comes to being turned down at jobs, what exactly do I want to do? Who exactly do I really want to be? And this thing doesn't come easy and it goes in stages. I was once in your shoes. I studied pharmacology, and immediately after or before service, I was running all around Lagos City trying to get a job. And I was being turned down because I had not served. The major thing was, if you now want to go for service, so we'll start looking for somebody else. So at that point, I decided, let me just go and teach. So sometimes, maybe at that point, depending on what you really want, it might not be the best time to start looking for jobs. Maybe you should still go through some trainings. And if you want to work in an hospital setting, your BSc anatomy, I do not think it is enough. You must be able to show value, what you can add to that hospital when you go there. So have you gone for a course in something else that is very relevant and needed within the hospital system? So I do not think you see it as
they are not giving me opportunities, but rather, what am I bringing to the table, or what can I bring to the table? If you're able to look around the hospital setting and find out this gap is missing, then you go for a training in that gap. I'm sure that, yes, not everybody will open their arms to receive you, but someday, sometime, somebody will open their arms to receive you. And when it comes to slow learning, same way I feel, it shouldn't be a mentor's issue. You also rightly agreed that it could be frustrating for both the mentors and the mentee. So if I were a slow learner, I think what I would do is to actually learn or know, I'm an adult now, we're adults now, how best I can learn and work harder than a regular student. Now you know that this mentor or this supervisor is not going to be dealing with only you. So in saying that, what would the mentor do, or putting it to the mentor, I would say it's more of trying to be like being very selfish. Like I'm trying to say, if I were you, I'm not you, of course. I'm thinking for myself, but I'm just trying to say, maybe you can pick one or two from whatever I would say. The mentor or supervisor is not going to be talking to or dealing with only me in that set. So if I'm expecting, I know, yes, the mentor or supervisor should take extra time with me, but then that would also require you or me as a person to do more. So if I'm able to say, others, or something somebody else is not bringing, I've been able to do this, or I have this idea, or I read and I found this, but I don't understand this part. There is no mentor or supervisor that would say, get out. But if you are coming with every time blank brain, of course, the person will be like, the one who said yesterday, have you made any improvement? Have you added to it? But, oh, what you said yesterday, man, or sir, now this is what I have found extra, but I don't understand this part of it. I don't think anybody is, not. They will definitely say, okay, or I know that I learned slowly, but I've made extra effort to do this. Can you help me with this? And then you can go at maybe not in the general time for everybody. Now you need extra. So not still out of the general time for everybody. Sometimes I do feel like, don't steal our general time. If you need me extra, I will be able to attend to you, but allow the general time to go for everybody. And I feel that's considerate on your side, the supervisor's side, and the other students. That's how I think that can be.
Thank you very much. Let me inform us that we are privileged to have Dr. Joshua Wulabi joining us virtually all the way from Philadelphia, United States of America. Prof, can you hear us, sir? Please, technical, I would like to hear his voice because you are going to help us attempt some questions tonight. Thank you very much. We are glad to have you around. So in a few moments, I'm going to be throwing some questions to you. Thank you very much. But before then, let me permit number 3. Who is number 3? Or number 4, rather. Thank you. Number 4 should please stand up and ask his or our questions, please. Number 4. Okay, if the person is not around, are you number 4 or number 5? You are number 5. All right, so Professor Manga will help us listen to his questions and thank you, sir. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for this wonderful conference. I'm Wolabi Mano, medical student of Babcock University here. My question is, I've heard some of our professors here mentioned going out of the country to further the research project and all of that. So I want to understand the difference. Of course, you've gone out of the country and you've learned, you've experienced probably a new dimension of how things go outside there. So I wanted to compare what you experience when it comes to mentorship and of course, mentorship and leadership in Nigeria and outside there. Because a little difference I can tell of is I used to be a student of Obafemi University, studying agricultural economics before moving here for medicine. So over then, in OAU, I feel like lecturers used to be like away from your students, and they used to be like gods, and you have to respect them. You have to do all your best to suit them. But here, lecturers are more lenient, more closer. If you get closer to them, you can approach them and all of that. So, and then compared to outside there, so I want you to create a comparison. And the second question is, usually when you have projects, you have some lecturers. Sometimes as students, as mentees, rather, you can be up and doing, but your mentors are not available. You reach them, you scan them at so time, they create time for you, and then you're not around. As a mentee, how do you manage such persons? Thank you.
Prof, did you get his questions? Okay, all right. Maybe what will happen is, from the perspective of being a Nigerian, maybe Professor Onasawo should be in the best position to answer that question. So I'm coming back to you again, Prof. I think he's talking from his experience regarding the setting of the universities of Nigeria and comparing it with another one in terms of maybe private and public schools settings. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just like he said, I was with, I think, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Babcock, one time like that when I came in here. And I was having a chat with her. I can't remember her name now. And he was telling me some things about Babcock. He said, here, our students are very free. They have access to our lecturers anytime, any day. And I was just like, I hope the lecturers will have privacy to themselves. Yeah. So from where I am coming from, you don't just see lecturers anyhow. Even there are some places that you have to book appointment, not in UI, outside UI, I don't want to mention because it's not my institution. One of the federal universities, somebody said, I want to go and see, he booked an appointment with us. He said he was going. I said, well, you can come. I'm always available, Monday to Friday. That's my office. He said, I have to, because when we go to so place, you must, if you don't tell them, you won't see them. I said, there are levels. There are some universities, you don't book appointment, you don't see lecturers. There are some, when you get there, you see them on campus. There are some, even when you get there, they are the ones that welcome you. There are different institutions like that, especially the private universities. The owner of the private universities wants to get the best for the students. When the students are available, you must be available for them. If you go to public universities, they will tell you, please, don't keep me this and that. They have their own time. When you have your hand, when I have my time, I have time for you. But when you go outside the country, for instance, that you are asking, there are facilities available. You may not even see your lecturers. That's just the funny aspect of it. But you can have access to your lecturers. What am I saying? You can always, when you do anything in the lab, I was in my friend's lab. For those who will be in the ISN next week, he will be available. I may not see him for the next 2-3 days, but we are talking online. This is what I've done. Okay, why can't you do this? Have you done this? Result? See, a very senior friend, but he's putting me through. If he's not available, maybe he traveled. But here, you may send a message to your supervisor, say, no, don't even call me, and all that. So those things are there, which you may not be able to fight or defeat. We just have to manage it. Especially now that people are thinking, please, if anything is not going to involve money, don't even come into it. Because of what is going on. Somebody say, if I can't come every day. If I come to the office, I'll spend so maybe 5,000 per day as well. And you want me to come every place, there are a lot of aggression, transfer of aggression here and there. So, but outside there's nothing like that. You have your time. The supervisor can chat with you. You can send message. But here, even when the supervisor doesn't have data to interact with you, you can't kill him. You have to wait for the time. You understand? Then I think the second one is all about, I didn't hear the second question very well. The second question, you mean, okay, have I touched that already? Not being available, yes. You see, these days, not these days, most of the lecturers here, I stand to be corrected. Only few people are giving do and don'ts when you were getting this job. I don't know in Babcock, maybe they give you the rules and regulations, all those stuff. But those are private universities. Those in Ilorin, those in UI, those in Lagos, those in from Zaria, were you given? The truth is no. No orientation. You just came into the job and you started. Some of you are not taught how to lecture. What is expected? What are the things you are supposed to do? But you know the way some people have been doing for you. You too, you started. I was brought up in such a way that when we have to beg the lecturers to come and teach us for what they have been paid for. So when you grow up to be a lecturer, you think that is the right thing. But that is a wrong thing. I remember in those days, we have to sit at the entrance, about 16 of us. That time, maybe we have about 3 or 4 lecturers in Bame. Once we there, sir, we want to come and teach us. Who? Am I on your timetable? Sorry, sir. We have to practically beg them to teach. But in Babcock, if you don't go to class, you will be dealt with. You will get a query for what you are being paid for. But who is monitoring them? It got to a point that my HOD said they should bring out a register for lecturers. When we complained, said we should. And that cost my class rep almost 1 year because somebody did not sign and he took it to the HOD and the HOD fired that person. So I think it's all about leadership. You know, our leaders in our institutions may need to handle it. It's beyond us. But as individuals, lecturers, please, let's do what we are being paid for to do. And thank God we have virtual teaching now. We have hybrid now. There are some universities, they said 3 times a week. Some institutions, 3 times a week you come. You can teach them online, make things easy. You may not need fuel for that, you need data. Maybe 1,000 naira data. I don't think you can finish that for your lectures. Better than your 5,000 naira fuel. I hope I was able to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I don't know if I can hear Dr. Wolabi. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
We can hear you more than loud and clear.
That's good to know. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. So we are glad to have you around, sir. I'm going to be asking you this interesting question. I know you to be a mentor and also a counselor, and that is why I'm throwing these kind of questions to you. This particular person says that, how should a mentor deal with an overly emotional mentee? For example, one who breaks down when being scolded by their mentor. So you have a mentee here who breaks down easily when being scolded by the mentor. How do you want to encourage such an individual? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you for the opportunity to speak. I know we don't have all the time in the world, so I better not go the route of protocol, but I want to especially appreciate the organizers and members of the high table. But I must mention, because this is very important and this is relevant to what we are saying now, that I have one of my teachers who directly taught me on the high table. I want to say a special thank you to Professor Woyele. We did call him BVO back then. And I remember my first class with him was something like excitable tissues. And another good friend of mine actually got a nickname from that class, but Prof wouldn't know. So, so it's good to reflect on those days. Having said that, I would put it this way. And I had to talk about mentorship, especially in professional context, a number of times. I remember the last time it was on the platform of the Anatomical Society of Nigeria. And I said, because it's becoming a buzzword and different people might have different understanding and perspective to this, not necessarily wrong, but perspectives are perspectives and they're relative. So that being said, the root word for mentorship actually came from a Greek, context where a particular warrior was actually going to war and he needed someone to look after his protege or his child. And he took it to this person and he said, and this person was actually called mentor. And the name of the person who was being taken to that person was Telemachus. And he said, help me look after this child, and he had expectations. So what were the expectations? Of course, that is, historical. That is more like archaic, but it is still very much relevant. So what were the expectations from this mentor? This mentor was expected to serve as a model to this particular child. That was going to be his father figure or his parent figure. And that this person was also expected to train this mentor, because that was his name, was also expected to have impartations to impact the life of this young person, of this young child. And if we take that to the context of education today, that will be impartation in three main domains. And when we talk about education, I'm also an educator. So we talk about education being primarily centered around three main domains, which is knowledge, skill, and attitude, or cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. And no education is complete until one is able to adequately acquire competencies in these three domains. So having said this, I quickly gave that background, and I might be able to talk more about that later, but to save time. So if you have a mentee that becomes emotional, number one, what is the role of a mentor? Because a mentor is not a coach in that context. A mentor is not necessarily even a teacher or someone who should impart knowledge in that context. So what is the job of this mentor? Number one is to be a model. And how do you be a model? Set standard, be an example, and be able to say, these are the standards you should measure up to. Now, standards vary from person to person. Now, if this person is expected to behave as a graduate student, but is still behaving as a high school student, then this person has to be raised to the required standard. And I always say this, there's no mentor that does anybody any good by lowering the standard for that person. A mentor will rather raise you to meet up standard, not to lower the standard. It's like you want to scale, high jump bar, or, a pole vault bar, for example. No good mentor lowers that bar for you. You'll never become the best. A good mentor helps you to get up to that point where you can scale the bar. So it might be therefore, if that person is behaving, not the way they should behave, not the way it's expected of their age and of their status, to be able to bring them to that level. Number one, first of all, understanding them. Why is this person behaving this way? Is there a problem with background? Is there a problem with psychic? Is there a mental, health problem? A mental health problem does not mean, neurological disorder. It does not mean they are mad or crazy. It could just be anxiety problem, lack of confidence, or lack of what we call psychological safety, when people cannot relate to an environment and feel safe because the experiences in the past has not assured safety, maybe because of the way they've been interacted with in the past, or even their perception of that person. So give that person psychological safety, seek to understand them, where they are and what they need. Then sit down and agree as to standard expectations. In fact, it is not just done now at the level of undergraduate. I am aware that in South Africa now, you sign a contract with your supervisor, and part of that is to agree on expectations. So at your level, we expect you to do this. So you must be able to deliver, because that's our agreement. So again, a mentor is not expected to babysit anybody, but a mentor is expected to be able to be understanding enough and to be able to walk that person to that point where they begin to take responsibility, where they have that sense of security, that sense of maturity, and they can go on from there. If with all this effort that is not achieved, I will simply say that that person needs to be referred for further help. Let me also say that as a scientist mentor, if I must use that word, you might not be able to solve all problems with your students or with your mentees. There are problems that go beyond that person. That is why schools have counselors. That's why there are communities of practice. That's why there are societies into which they can be embedded and they can be helped. That is speaking from the perspective of the mentor now. I brought the perspective of the mentee. One thing is, and I think it's been mentioned, we talk a whole lot about giving mentorship, but probably sometimes we don't have enough time to talk about receiving mentorship. And for those who are in business world, for example, it's clear that mentorship is given, it's offered, but it's also for the recipient to be willing to receive it as well. In religious world, they call it discipleship. If someone is not mentorable, or someone cannot be taught, cannot be mentored, that will probably not be a problem with the mentor. That will be a problem with that mentee. Again, that goes back to the philosophy of education. That person now needs to understand that education is not just about me receiving skill. It's also about coming to the table with the right attitude to receive it. And that is why, again, knowledge, wisdom, and attitude comes in. That takes us to the fact that before one can do well with one's science, one also needs to be balanced in other aspects. Many of us have wondered, why do we have all this GNS or GDS, like it's called in other university, in in our program, when you're going to be a scientist, for example? Why do they need to teach me something like culture? Why do they need to tell me that ethnocentrism is a problem? Why do I need to learn about psychology and philosophy? It is because all these aspects will come together to help the attitude with which I do my science, and that will determine how much quality mentorship I'm going to have access to. Many of us have probably missed huge opportunities because we did not know when it mattered and how best to receive mentorship. So again, every one of us to take up that responsibility and know that if someone is going to invest themselves in me, and by the way, mentorship is tough. When people choose to be mentors, they literally pour themselves into the people that they mentor. It's a whole lot. Sometimes you're sleeping and you're not thinking about yourself. You're thinking about your mentee. How will this person finish their master's? How will they finish their PhD? Who can I recommend this person to for postdoc, for example? But your mentee is sleeping. So if someone would do this on your behalf, and we must give kudos to those who do it without a sense of entitlement. So if someone does this much for someone, they don't expect you to show up the next day expecting to be babysitted. They also expect you to come up with the right attitude. So if that is the case, every one of us who wants to be mentees, and none of us has come this far without having good mentors, and we must give credit to them. So every one of us and every other person still need mentors. I don't think I will ever get to that point where I think I don't need mentors anymore. Their size will change, their shape will change, their level will change. The persons can also change. But we also need to always look up to someone. And a mentor does not mean someone who is very much high up there. Could be a peer. They are peer mentors, people who challenge you, people who drive you, people whose strength who have strength in certain areas that we don't have. So in short, what I'm just going to say is there are two sides to that. The mentee must take responsibility, must come as that child who is looking up to a model, who is willing to be imparted in terms of knowledge, skill, and attitude. The mentor must also come as someone who is willing to impart someone, serving as a model, and an ideal model for that matter. And then who is ready to give the required skill, the required knowledge, because you must have it to give it. And who is also ready to do that with the right attitude, because our mentees will pick up our ways of life. They will pick up our attitude. There is a lot to say about why the developing world remains the developing world. And oftentimes, it's always put at the doorstep of the leadership, but the leadership is a product of the society and of the followership. And if every one of us does not change, the society can never change. Societies are not changed from top down. They are changed by everybody. And the way to change that is to change the culture of that society, the way that that society does things. Thank you very much.
Wow. A round of applause. Thank you very much, Dr. Olabi. I never made a mistake when I said you are a counselor and you're also a mentor. We have heard a lot from you, and I want to believe that we are going to take that into our hearts tonight. Our time is fast spent. I have just 2 questions to go, and we'll be out of this place. I'm throwing this to Professor Manga. He's just going to address that in few words. A student said that, how do you discover your passion? Not everyone finds it easy knowing where they have passion in. I am passionately very good at whatever I put my heart in. So how do I know what I am passionate about? I don't know, maybe you understand that question. Thank you very much, sir.
I am still waiting to know what I want to be when I grow up, which is, it sounds kind of weird, but what interests you and what gets you going and motivated at work can change from year on year with things that are presented in front of you. So how do you get that passion going? Personally, I read a lot. I read very few scientific papers, but I read a lot of other things. I read a lot of philosophy. I read a lot of novels. I read a lot of history. I look at completely different things to what I work on, but those all bring ideas and different angles and perspectives into the things that I'm working on. And that brings in the enjoyment and the joy and the passion about it. And there's also one of the things about with science is you're there to find something that's new. And when you find something that's new and you realize you're the first person who's ever seen this or figured this out, it's a really, really exciting thing and becomes quite addictive. And you sort of look for that dopamine high over and over and over again. And that's kind of the passion that drives you. So I can't say that there's any particular direct path or way of doing it. I just explained what I do, but it's something that when you get it, you'll know it. And that's really all I can say. I can't say you can do steps A, B, C, and D and attend that course and do this exam. That's not going to work. It has to come from within you, and you have to be excited about it.
Thank you so much for that. So I'm giving this question to the president, Professor Owoyele. This person says that, how do you as a mentee get back in good graces with your mentor after messing up and your mentor is not willing to give you another opportunity? This person needs reconciliation. How do you help us tackle this? Maybe the person has realized his or her own mistakes and is trying to get the attention of the mentor again. How do you advise this particular person? How does he or she go about this?
Well, I think it depends on the nature of the mentee and the nature of the mentor. But generally, to err is human, and it is only God that is defined that will not err. So at one point or the other, we are bound to offend our mentees, and sometimes as professors may even go overboard. So have I ever offended my mentee before? I mean, my PhD supervisor has walked me out of his office before. Yeah, and we got back. So that means I've offended him before. But we are friends. So I think on this side, we the mentor, we should always understand that there could be mistakes. But when mentees make mistake and they want to stick to their mistake and want to prove that they are right, then there will be a problem. If the Yoruba people will say, if you know your sin rightly and you apologize, you won't stay long on your knee. But when you think, it's my right, I can do this, I can do that, the ultimate thing is that you want to get your degree and move on in your life. And the earlier you can get it, the best. But most of my, not most, maybe like 50% of my PhD, I produced 10 PhD graduates. So I've graduated 10 PhD. And I think at least about 5 of them will have got queries, written queries from me. And I will write them and say, provide me an answer. Why you did this and that? But as I'm speaking, 4 of them are outside the country. 3 are in the US doing postdoc. Another person is in the UK. And we still have this togetherness. I cannot say the time that I help them is probably past, but we still help each other. I wanted to pay for the society for Ibro charge NSN money annually to pay. And NSN doesn't have a DOM card. We have a DOM account, but not because it's a society account. We don't have an ATM card. I had to approach one of my mentee that supervised the masters, the PhD to some extent before he got an opportunity outside. Can you help us pay for society? Not even for me. Can you help us pay in euro and we will pay you in naira? I wanted to conserve NSN's money, hard money. And because we have a bit of naira, and he agreed, give us your conversion rate. And he used his card outside the country to pay for the society, not even for me. So I believe that we can err, but we must also look beyond this time that we are together and look that time that the mentee will become, because I can never underestimate what anybody will become. I can never underestimate. I was just a young boy. This morning, I met people in my office that when I was graduate assistant, we were like, I will go to their office, and today I'm dean. Apart from being president, I'm dean of postgraduate school. And they come and say, is it not this you? I said, yes, I was. But today we are where we are. So I think if you know that you've wronged your supervisor very well, try to appeal and do whatever is right. And if you know a way to get back for reconciliation, try to do that. Sometimes it might require you going to meet the best friend and say, please, can you help me? Because that's African anyway. Can you help me appeal to him? Okay. And it does work. It does work. I know some people I don't do this get close to my family, and my students are here, except when I have special function. Nobody, what are you coming to do in my house? What? I don't have that business. But some instances where, okay, maybe those who are close to them, you may also appeal to them to help you beg and show real remorse that you are turning a new leaf. I think those are some of the things. You look at what they like most. If it is work ethic that you have lacked, then increase your work ethics, and then you will turn a new leaf. Or look at what they like somebody who will want you to maybe write something or do this, and then try to do whatever you think. Study. It's not this mentee alone that needs to study you. You also need to study your mentor and try to see what they like. Honestly, it's we had an NSN webinar, the last one in I think it was May. It was emotional intelligence. Very beautiful lecture that everybody needs to be taught. Emotional intelligence. We have it on our YouTube page, so you can still go and watch it. That's NSM YouTube. I mean, you should have emotional intelligence as a mentee and know how to relate with your supervisor, your mentor. And the mentor also needs that emotional intelligence. We are a team and working so together to make sure that we all develop ourselves. So you contribute, I contribute. And I think that's the way we need to look at it. When you are wrong, accept that you are wrong and appeal and appeal. Hopefully, in this part of, I'm sorry for Manga, but in this part of the world, I used to say, we believe in God, so pray. We pray. We pray. Thank you.
So if you are fortunate that your mentor is here tonight, let me tell you that you are safe. You are forgiven. Is that taken? Because everyone has had the sermon. So immediately after now, if peradventure your mentor is here, just go and say, sir, let me hug you because I've been forgiven. Thank you very much. The last but not the least question, I'm going to answer that on their behalf. The question says that, good evening, sirs and ma. Are there any one of you opened to mentor someone who is interested in getting research skills? Capital, yes. All of them are open to you. Some are still coming. Some are seated among you. So approach anyone. That is what this forum is all about. Just get connected. We are to show one another the right way. You may be clueless but there are people that are ready to carry you on their shoulder so that you'll be able to fly in the right direction. Thank you very much for your patience. And we have come to the end of this wonderful session. May I invite the chairman, LOC, to please come forward, Dr. Olanrewaju, for a closing remark and to appreciate our mentors here and those who joined us virtually. And we'll get out of this place. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adelodun, for doing this great job. It was just this morning we had to sit down together to put most of the stuff together. So I want to first appreciate our mentors here, both the ones seated here and some of us that are on the other side. All right. I want to appreciate particularly, oh, she has disappeared, Dr. Oritoke. I think it was the last minute I had to tell her, and so that this place doesn't just look very masculine and so that we are not looking biased. So, and she volunteered to come up. So I want to say a big thank you to everyone who have given their talk and who has also spoken. And much more importantly, we know that what we are having right now is just an opportunity for us to initiate the conference itself in a very, very more interactive way now. The reason I'm saying this is that I want you to see that for the next 3 days, we'll be having these people with us, and you have every opportunity by this particular point in time to just engage them and try as much as possible to build some form of network. And every one of us here, where we stand is as a result of somebody we met in a conference or probably a scientific workshop like this. Please, this is not the time for us to get distracted, and we may not have a perfect environment. At least we've done as much as possible to make sure that we put everything in place, but it may not be 100%. So I would want to say that as we are given this opportunity, let us maximize it. Tomorrow morning, we'll be having the opening ceremony. I may not have the time to keep sending messages on the platform. Do everything possible for those who are probably connected online, probably some people are on their way. Please do everything possible to be in this hall latest by 8:45, if possible, all right? So again, I want to quickly also remind us that for those of us going to our hall, especially the female hall, is quite a distance from here. And we'll try and see how we just make sure we provide some kind of direction for you, all right? And in case you have not registered until now, please do so before you leave. I know tomorrow morning we might still have some people who will be registering on site, all right? So let's not join that, give unnecessary excess workload to give to our those in charge of registration. All right, so Professor Manga, I want to especially thank you for coming down from South Africa. It took us a lot of bottlenecks. I mean, getting his visa and all of that. I never knew Nigeria was important until it was time for a visa application to Nigeria. It was so amazing. All right, and Professor Oyele, I want to really thank you for your leadership. He has really provided leadership for most of us here. I'm going to say a few things about him deliberately. I'm not going to say them now, probably tomorrow. He has really been a support in every platform. I mean, as a classroom teacher, in association like this, I mean, think of it. At every point, he has provided that leadership. And I can say with all my heart that he is a mentor and not a tormentor. Most mentors we have in our climb, unfortunately, they fall on the other side of being tormentors. You want to go and see your supervisor and your BP is rising. So I want to also thank Professor Onosowo. Professor Onosowo is one person that, I mean, if you are not careful, you can almost take him for granted. And I wonder how he still just allow people to just find their way through him just like that. All right. So, and somebody who I can almost say is like a senior twin brother. All right. Every time my first time I met him, I just realized there's something peculiar about him. And that's why till now, we invited him in here just a few months ago to examine our BSc students. One thing I will say about Dr. Ijomone is that there's something enigmatic about him. He is not the conventional type of Nigerian lecturer who boss you around. And he's always wanting to share every experience he has. He came here, the first time he came to Babcock was, we were doing some collaborative work, and he has some special skill, and he said, I want you people to come and learn how to locate not the hippocampus, I think there was this, is it the corpus callosum or something? There was something, and I mean, most times in this climb, when you know something, you don't want to hide it. That's the next thing you want to do, so that everybody just sees you as one superhero. But it's just different, all right? So, and much more importantly, all this talk would have not gone well if we don't have you guys here. So I also want to appreciate you for coming all the way and also for giving us that audience all the way. So please put your hands together for yourself. I must not end my appreciation without mentioning somebody very important personally to me, all right? I dare to call him even a mentor, even though, fine, we at some point had degrees at the same, but I think he has exposed me to many things, to the things I do today. I think if I remember my first manuscript that I drafted, I was putting reference in an abstract. You know what that means? I mean, I'm not talking about undergraduate. I'm not talking about masters. Even at PhD level, that was how terrible and inexperienced I was in drafting manuscripts. So this is someone who has put me through some thoroughness in terms of drafting manuscript. All right. So that's in person of he's an associate professor right now at the University of Georgia in Philadelphia in the United States of America, in person of Dr. Joshua Olade Owulabi. So please put your hands together for him as well. All right. So we are in for a very great time, I promise you. So please make sure. I saw someone, I know he's a student, he was fiddling with his phone outside almost all through the time this talk was on. Sometimes that's how you miss out the most essential moments in your career. You are quite young, and if you ask me, I would really love to be younger than I am now and having the kind of exposure I have. So please never let this opportunity pass you by. All right. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Delodun, for everything. All right. So see you tomorrow. Okay. All right. There's a bus waiting for us outside. So if you just the bus will be waiting for us, especially I think the females, because your hall is quite a distance. All right. So thank you very much. So now for registration for the conference, I know most of us have done that, but there's a separate registration to be a member of Neuroscience Society of Nigeria. For students, I think it's just a token of 3,000, 1,000 for, so when you come to the stand will be right there outside by the left, all right? So please, I will encourage us to register as a member, not just come for the conference and just go away, all right? Thank you very much.